Hey everybody, and welcome to Q&A Wednesday, where I answer the questions that you have about your health and fitness goals. Now, really quickly, I want to make sure that you understand that the majority of the questions that I answer are not necessarily related to athletes and bodybuilders and all that stuff. Although I work with them, that's not my predominant clientele. So the questions that I answer are things that everyday people have questions about, and I really like to address things that are going to affect you when it comes to your health, nutrition, and fitness goals. So realize that I started way back when as a newbie to lifting, and I didn't understand a thing about nutrition. And so really over the last decade, I've learned a ton. And of course, I still love to learn. I'm a huge nerd. I absorb everything I read. Like, I just love it. I never knew I was going to be a scientist. So anyhow, we've got a great topic tonight. I haven't addressed this one. I have before, but I haven't done it recently. But sometimes I go back through and I start to get enough questions about some of these things that I go, okay, well, it's probably time that we talk about this again. So we're going to talk really quickly about diet food. Now, you know, a decade or two ago, that was really a big common question. We had a lot of products on the shelf that were technically diet. I do find these days most people kind of understand what nutritious and healthy food means, but I still get a lot of questions about, well, what about this? What about that? What about diet soda? What about, you know, all those things. So we're going to talk really quickly about what diet food is, and is it really healthy? Because, you know, just because a package says something doesn't mean that it truly is. I get really, really frustrated with the way that the food industry uses, you know, their marketing tools. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about whether or not diet food. So really quickly, let's give a definition for diet food, because I don't like the word diet. Most of us understand that a diet is something that we feel like we're going to sacrifice. We have to, like, you know, 1,200 calories, and we're going to be miserable and starving, and like life is over kind of thing. And most people think too that it's a short-term thing. So if you really want to be healthy, and if you really have a really good health goal, and you want to not just hit your goal, but stay there, you're going to have to look at things a little bit differently. So I don't like to use the word diet, but a lot of people, that's the first thing they think is, okay, well, I need to diet, right? Oh, it's January 1st, I need to diet. Oh, I spend all summer drinking beer, I need to go on a diet. So let's talk about what diet food is. Now, if you remember, like in the 90s, when they had this whole big thing, they vilified fat. They kept saying, well, dietary fat makes you fat, which is totally true. It's just not. There's more to it than that. But it was a huge issue, because what they did was, yeah, they took fat out of everything, but then they put sugar in because it still needed flavor. It still needed to sell. They still needed to have a marketing tool for their products. So unfortunately, if you have kind of followed the history of what happened after that, the trajectory of our population, obesity has become rampant. So obviously that was not the right issue, but it was really fascinating to see that they came out with all these like low-fat options. I also remember the first time a diet soda came out. I was pretty young. My mom, and pink cans, right? Do you guys remember those? My mom like was hitting all the grocery stores looking for this. It was Tab. That was the product, because it was diet. Now, of course, if you look at some of those products, the chemicals they put in diet soda, we all know that aspartame is not good for you. Obviously, there's some things have changed over the years, but unfortunately in our country, we look at a lot of these products or these ingredients as GRAS, which is just generally recognized as safe. So yeah, that's why a lot of other countries, all their people, their population tends to remain fairly lean and fit, even though they eat things like bread. Their products are just different. They don't put a lot of those chemicals and additives and preservatives into their foods. Not only that, but a lot of countries have completely ruled them out. Like they've banned them. They're not allowed to use those. So if you kind of can see over time that it really hasn't produced, diet foods have not really produced a healthier population. It's kind of just made it worse. So let's talk a little bit about what diet food is, at least in my mind. Again, we're going to kind of come back and talk about my tips for that, but let's talk a little bit about diet food. So the biggest one that really drives me crazy is when I see the box of Nutrisystem sitting on its shelf stable. It's not refrigerated, which again, anything on the shelf is going to contain a ton of additives and preservatives, because of course it has to stay not fresh, but it has to be preserved, right? So anything like that is going to be full of chemicals. It just drives me crazy to look at that and think, people think this is healthy? Right? So kind of come back to the fact that anything that's processed is probably in general not going to be your best option, because of course it really depends on the process, but a lot of them have been processed to a point where our body absorbs them and treats them a lot differently than whole food. So I don't care if it says it's a diet food. If it's a processed food, it's still a processed food. Kind of like organic sugar is still sugar. Like, really, your body treats it the same. Now, obviously, there's different ways to process sugar. We've got, the highly processed, chemical, horrible, I call it like, it's like crack, it's sugar. And then we have the natural sources of sugar, which obviously are better. But when it comes down to, like, let's say maple syrup, your body still treats it as sugar. So again, you kind of have to know what you're talking about and how your body responds to the different macronutrients, and what sugar does to your system, how it spikes insulin, and all of those kind of things. So not that we're hitting that tonight, just keep in mind that a lot of times companies will use marketing tools in order to make you think that it's a healthy option, and it's really not. So again, anything that is processed is probably not your best bet. It's kind of like, I always giggle when people are like, well, what about protein cookies? Protein cookies are awesome. I'm like, how much sugar does that have? How processed? What are the ingredients? I don't ever give a strict yes or no when somebody asks, they send me a picture, they're like, can I have this? Usually the first thing I say is, show me the back. Let me see the nutrition label and the ingredient list. And to be honest, I don't necessarily want to see the nutrition label. I want to see the ingredient list. And then I don't come right out and say yes or no. I'm like, let's go through it. What things sound like they're good options, and what things, hey, oats, anything ending in os is sugar. Like, how many oses do you see in that list? So we kind of go over it and decide together whether or not that's a great option or not a great option. So again, just because it is a diet food absolutely does not make it healthy. Kind of like Coke Zero, like, it doesn't have sugar, but it has other stuff in it. So again, we'll talk about that in just a second. But also remember, it's not just about the calories. I feel like over time, when it comes to like some of these pre-made company meals, like Nutrisystem and Jenny Craig, and some of the other ones that they've come out with, they just look at the calories. They're just looking at small portions, but they're not really taking into consideration, even if they take in the macros into consideration, which are carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, they're not looking at quality. They're not going, okay, well, this is a whole food that is going to take much longer to break down, and it's not going to hit their system as sugar, versus, well, it's the right macronutrients in this, but again, it's full of chemicals and preservatives, and it's just garbage. So quality does matter. So look at a lot of the companies. You remember I think it's Coke that now says all calories matter. Okay, so I love how people always say, well, everything in moderation. I'm like, okay, everything in moderation. So heroin is okay in moderation. Like, okay, that doesn't make any sense to me. Realize that sugar and processed food actually stimulates the same part of your brain. Well, sugar in general is a drug. It stimulates the same part of your brain as cocaine and heroin. So some things are okay in moderation, but what happens is because a lot of those foods are hyper palatable, they're highly processed or ultra processed, your body actually becomes addicted to it very quickly. So again, just because it's a diet version of it. Do you guys remember like Snackwells, and I'm trying to remember all those things that they came out with at the time that we all thought they were healthy? Yeah, they weren't. So yeah, it's great. So again, it's not just about the calories. One of the things that they teach is calories in, calories out, which to some degree is true. But again, you have to look at macros because your body treats each macro differently biologically in your system. You also have to look at quality, not just the calories. So again, there's more to it than that. A lot of the diet products are also very low nutrient. So again, listen, I don't care if it's like reduced calorie. It's unless it has the vitamins and minerals that you need, which honestly should come from superfoods, right? If you're getting something that's been enriched with synthetic vitamins, your body, first of all, you can't even guarantee you're going to absorb it, let alone utilize it correctly and optimally within your system. So yeah, it's unfortunate that we haven't been taught really how food can work in our system, and what's optimal for us as humans. So let's talk a little bit about the different products. So again, protein products. Now again, I'm not saying a good protein powder isn't a great option, especially if you need a little bit of convenience, you're in a hurry, you have a busy lifestyle, that's fine, or struggling to get enough protein throughout the day. But again, now they're adding protein to everything, right? Protein cookies. Most of us have seen, used, or had a protein bar. They're not all created equally. Realize that even a protein bar is still processed. So you have to look at the ingredient list, and you have to determine whether or not that's something that you're willing to put into your nutrition, just because again, it may not be as healthy as you think it is. So just keep that in mind. You really want some natural ingredients, and a lot of times, again, because it's shelf stable, it's gonna have some chemicals in it. So again, and now, like the cookies, that's my favorite. I'm like, I don't care if it's a protein cookie, it still contains sugar, it's still processed, it's still a cookie. yes, it's a better option than eating, you know, whatever, but still, I get it in the beginning. You're going from not so great to good, and then eventually you want to go from good to optimal. But it's really difficult to kind of get yourself off of some of those things if you think that that's something that's very healthy for you on a regular basis. It still needs to be treated as a goodie, right? So again, keep that in mind. Frozen dinners. Oh man, I grew up on frozen dinners oh yeah, like I totally remember those. Before we had microwaves. Yes, I'm not old. I remember these. My dad loved TV dinners. We used them a lot. Over the years, you know, for convenience, a lot of companies have come out with healthier options. So I don't know how many of those you've had, but most of us have had to kind of like, I don't know, hold our nose while we eat it because number one, there's not a lot of flavor. Number two, they're really not nutritious. Again, they don't taste that great. And who says that healthy has to be bland? It doesn't. But again, because they're trying to make it healthy, and most of them contain a ton of sodium. Now, we all need a certain amount of sodium, but even those healthier meals come with a ton of sodium because again, it's a preservative. So keep that in mind that they don't taste that great. I used to use they were like panini ones. This way back when, we're talking like 12 years ago. They kind of tasted like eating cardboard, but they were easy. I could take them with me to work very easily and stick it and then microwave it when I needed it. Yeah, I've weaned myself off of that garbage. First of all, they're paninis. It still contained flour, which turns to sugar. So even though it might have been lesser calories, it still wasn't the best option. So again, you really got to know what you're looking for. That's a hard one just because I know you want convenience. I know you want something it's a healthier version, but there are better ways to do it, right? And the fresher it is, the better off it is. Those frozen dinners are just really difficult because it's kind of like the shelf-stable Jenny Craig that I was talking about, or the Nutrisystem. It's still a processed food. It's still not great for you. Shakes. Oh, that's the one that I love. Like, just drink a shake for breakfast, a shake for dinner, or shake for lunch, and have a sensible dinner. First of all, you're not getting enough calories. Number two, your body is burning through those shakes faster than you know, and that's why you're starving. That's why you have no energy, and that's why your blood sugar's dropping. So again, it's ridiculous what they've taught us, and I don't even know how like they can say like, well, this has been approved by doctors. Doctors don't have a lot of nutrition education unless they specifically went to school for that, and even then, a lot of them are taught the wrong thing. So again, it's shakes. I don't mind a protein shake. Again, if it's a good product, it's clean, it's convenience, you're trying to get more protein, I get it. That's great. But like some of those diet shakes, just not a fan. And be careful too if you're drinking some of those, and sure, because you know sometimes our older parents need to be getting more nutrition and it's a little bit easier for them to drink down, but a lot of those contain so much sugar. So again, be careful there. We talked about programmed food. Yeah, just yuck. I'm sorry, like yuck. You're better off to find a food prepping service that does a great job, that cooks very well, versus some of those just garbage foods. And then we talked a little bit about diet soda. I've actually read studies where diet soda is actually worse than sugar-filled soda for multiple reasons. We can go onto that topic another day, but keep in mind most sodas contain aspartame, and all of them contain some kind of chemicals and things in there that aren't good for you. So really quickly, I want to talk about one of the things that a lot of companies use to make it sound healthier is that they use loopholes. So if you look at some, like let's talk about like the sucralose packets, right? They say it is a non-nutritive sugar substitute, which is incorrect. First of all, it is a derivative of sugar. And secondly, they're following a loophole that is basically if it contains less than 0.5 grams per serving size, which is one packet, then they don't have to include it, right? So you start putting 5 and 6 packets in your coffee and you're actually raising your blood sugar quite intensely. So again, you can't believe everything they say, just like I can't believe it's not butter spray. It says 0 calories for 2 sprays. That's a crock of garbage. I've actually read 2 different places. One said it was 900, another one said it was 1,020 calories in that whole bottle. So you know that it actually contains calories. They're just following a loophole. So be careful there. It's a marketing scheme. The other thing that we want to pay attention to are things like labeling it non-GMO, organic. Like, I don't care. Like, organic sugar is still sugar. Yeah, it might not be. It's just very, very frustrating. So again, you can't just look at it. It might sound healthy. The packaging might, allude to the fact that it's supposed to be healthy, but just because it says it, again, you kind of have to look how does your body feel? Does it feel good when you eat it, or do you feel crummy? So That's part of it. The other thing I love is all these companies that have decided to make like cookies thinner so that, you know, less calories. Yes, but when you eat twice the amount of cookies, you still have that issue. Yeah, it's just very, very frustrating, the amount of marketing that they do with that. Things in the past that we've been told were healthy that are definitely not healthy. Pretzels. I used to think pretzels were healthy. You guys, that's basically sugar in your system as soon as you eat it. Whole wheat. Yeah, we could do a whole thing on this one day because there's so many foods out there. People are like, yes, but I'm eating it on whole wheat bread. And I'm like, it's still bread, it's still flour, it turns to sugar. So again, you really got to know what the different nutrients do. Now, again, I'm not saying that you have to cut out everything that you love, but it really depends on what your goals are. And why subject yourself to diet food that doesn't taste good, it's bland, it's really not that great for you, it's full of chemicals. Let's just pick some healthier versions of things. So my tips to you today would be, number one, read the ingredient list on a product. Most of what you are eating should not be more than one ingredient, right? And if it has a bunch of things you can't pronounce, probably shouldn't be putting it in your face anyway. Number two, stick to whole foods. You're gonna find the best options there. Your proteins, your vegetables, which are complex carbohydrates, and your fats. And sorry, somebody just turned off the light in my studio is in the garage. So somebody just turned off the light. Good thing I have the ring light on. Anyhow, so we're wrapping up anyway. So again, really, if you're looking at diet foods, it's something that you really need to kind of do a little more digging. Don't just assume that because it looks healthy that it is. It's probably not. So have an incredible week, you guys. Hey, by the way, all of my YouTube videos or my weekly lives are uploaded to YouTube, so you can go back and watch all of them. Definitely subscribe to my channel under Fillmore Fitness. You can see everything I've ever done. Go back a few years and it'll be really funny because you'll be like, wow, she says sucralose isn't good for you. Well, way back when I didn't know enough about it. So I've learned, right? If you have a question, I get my best ideas from you guys. You can leave a comment below, or you can text or message me directly through Facebook Messenger. I do respond. And really quickly, I apologize for last Saturday. Technical difficulties with Facebook. Not sure what was going on there. I could not, was having some issues there. So hopefully we've got it taken care of. But have a great week, you guys, and we will see you next time on Q&A Wednesday. Have a great day.